Madam President, thank you so much. And I want to thank my colleague from California, Senator Feinstein, for her longtime advocacy on this, and to our colleague from Minnesota, Senator Klobuchar, for leading the effort this year to reauthorize this critically important bill to protect women in this country from violence. I was very proud to be here with the senator from California back in 1994 when we first passed the Violence Against Women Act, or VAWA, as we call it, which created this national strategy for dealing with domestic violence. And since we took that first historic step, VAWA has been a great success in coordinating victims' advocates and social service providers and law enforcement professionals to meet the immediate challenges of combating domestic violence. This law has helped provide life-saving assistance to hundreds of thousands of women and their families. It's been supported by Democrats and Republicans, along with law enforcement officers, prosecutors, judges, victim service providers, faith leaders, healthcare professionals, advocates, and survivors. VAWA has attained such broad support for one reason: it's worked. Since it became law 18 years ago, domestic violence has decreased by 53%. And while incidents have gone down, reporting of violence and abuse has gone up. More victims are finally coming forward, and more women and families are getting the support and the care they need to move themselves out of dangerous situations. As a result of the language in this law, every single state has made stalking a crime, and they've all strengthened criminal rape statutes. Madam President, we have made a lot of progress since 1994, but we still have a long way to go. Every single minute, 24 people across America are victims of violence by an intimate partner, more than 12 million people a year. 45% of the women killed in this country die at the hands of their partner. And in one day last year, victims of domestic violence made more than 10,000 requests for supports and services that could not be met because programs didn't have the resources. That's why I was so proud to co-sponsor and strongly support the Violence Against Women Reauthorization Act. And it's why I join my colleagues today in proudly expressing our hope that we can move this critical legislation when possible. This is a bipartisan bill that will advance our efforts to combat domestic violence, dating violence, sexual assaults, and stalking. It will give our law enforcement agencies the support they need to enforce and prosecute those crimes. And it will give communities and nonprofits the much-needed resources to support victims of violence, and most importantly, to keep working to stop violence before it ever starts. Madam President, this bill was put forward in a bipartisan fashion. It is supported by hundreds of national and local organizations that deal with this issue every day. It consolidates programs to reduce administrative costs. It adds accountability to make sure tax money is well spent. It builds on what works in the current law, improves what does not, and will help our country continue on the path of reducing violence towards women. And Madam President, should not be controversial. We reauthorized this law last time here in the Senate unanimously by voice vote. And President Bush signed it into law with Democrats standing there with him. So I am really hopeful that the bipartisan approach to this issue continues today as we work to reauthorize this law once again. Because, Madam President, this shouldn't be about politics. Protecting women against violence should not be a partisan issue. So I want to thank the Democrats and Republicans who've worked together to write this bill. I'm very glad it passed through committee. I stand ready to support this bill when it comes to the floor. And I truly hope we can get President Obama for his signature in a timely fashion so women and families across this country can get the resources and support that this law will deliver. Finally, Madam President, I just have to say, many of us women have come to this floor so many times over the last few weeks to fight back against attempts to turn back the clock when it comes to women's health care, as the senator from California just talked about. I'm disappointed that these issues keep coming up, but I know I stand with millions of men and women across America who remain ready to defend the gains we have made over the last 50 years and who think we should be moving forward, protecting and supporting more women and families, not moving backwards. That's what this bill does.